The United States was founded to have three separate branches of government: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. Traditionally, people understand the media as the fourth branch of government, but now, today, officially, there is a fifth. Comedians with Podcasts. Morning, folks. Welcome to the Joey Show. I'm Joey Avery. Boy, what a special episode we have for you today. If you're watching, you can tell I'm dressed for a serious episode. This is our final episode before the election, and it's also dropping on Halloween. So I have prepared, I have my shirt and tie because we are following politics today, and then hopefully not too much. Maybe we can take a break after this. And then I am also dressed in my Halloween best. That's right. I am dressed in my classic attire. I am a pumpkin. And boy, do we have some things to carve out. The election is heating up, and the most important branch of the entire United States political establishment is comedians, largely from Austin, Texas. That is what this election is going to come down to. All right? All the subgroups, all the interest groups, okay? It is going to come down to comedians that are either directly or tangentially related to the Austin, Texas scene. That is what is going to decide the election. And I, for one, think that is where America was supposed to go. Some people will look at this and say that is ridiculous. That is not what this is about. And furthermore, even if it is, it's definitely a bad thing because the fusing and of comedy and politics is not a good thing. And comedians maybe shouldn't be the people that have the final say. And to you, I'd say, I bet you're just jealous you didn't do open mics, you big fucking pussy. How about that? It's our time. We deserve it. That's why this podcast is about politics, because we're going to run and win. That is why Hunter Biden is one of the 12, only real members of the 12. No, shout out to the squad. Like, subscribe, leave a rating, leave a comment. What's going on, people? This was an eventful weekend. We had Joe Rogan interviewing Donald Trump for almost 3 entire hours and honestly finding a way to achieve absolutely nothing during that time, which I thought was impressive. J.D. Vance went on Tim Dillon. And then, of course, Tony Hinchcliffe, not to be outdone. Tony Hinchcliffe, or as he was listed on the billing for Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden event, Kill Tony. It's the name of the person. People have been getting this wrong. They've been calling him Kill Tony, which is kind of a fun... That's obviously the name of his very successful YouTube live comedy show. Not his actual name, but I like the name because it reminds me of like an 80s road dog. You're gonna go see Kill Tony out there. He's one of the guys that'll say the word. It was unbelievable. He spoke at Madison Square Garden, and it has caused, and I'm sure that we have some comedians who listen to this program. For people who aren't as steeped in the comedy world, I could not possibly describe to you how much of a tizzy this caused. I don't remember, I even checked in with Facebook for this. Okay, that's what now granted, my Facebook is a specific community. My Facebook is largely Bay Area comedians. So you're going to get a certain kind of take, and they'll take to the keys, baby. They will take to the keys. They have thoughts. They will share them. They will do it on Facebook. But I checked in, and I haven't seen a flood of monolithic coverage about the same thing since literally Me Too. People are sharing Tony's stories about fuck this guy, he was mean to me in a green room. Okay, people are coming at members of Tony's larger community. Fuck all these guys, fuck the show, fuck all this. And it has been fascinating. It's been a large thing. I guess maybe why don't we start? Because I do think I don't love when jokes are taken out of context. So I think we should play some of the clips. We'll play a little bit of the clip, and then we'll talk a little bit about where it has left us now. And let's not forget, The main purpose of this episode is to explain, for people who aren't going to understand this, that comedians are the most important leading political lights in American society, and that is good. It's a good thing, because I'm sick of people trying to fact check things all the time. I am sick of holding people who are in power to actual account. I just want to feel their vibes. Do you know what I mean? And this, people are gonna. You may think this is coded. I'm coming at people here and there. I want to make it very clear. If I have the opportunity to get anyone on this podcast, I would do it. I do think if it's either major, obviously, look, I mean, guys, you know the numbers. We're not really close to this decision-making process, but I would have a right-wing candidate. I would have a left-wing candidate, okay? And then people will say, how could you platform a certain person? Maybe you're giving a voice to fascism. I would have a fascist. I think I've made it very clear. People who have listened to this entire program will certainly know. I planned an entire trip to North Korea. You think I wouldn't have Kim Jong-un on this bitch? And I'm not saying I like him. I don't. Hell of an interview, though, I bet. See, that's the thing. It's not an endorsement. I want to chat. I want to find out what he's all about. I want to ask him the easy questions. I want to get to the top of it. Fuck the bottom of it. Let's get to the top of it. This is a diversion. I know we need to talk about Tony. We need to talk about MSG. We need to talk about all of that. I did see that North Korea sent a lot of troops to Russia, and Russia's having trouble integrating them. Oh, you think? Did you think that was just going to be easy? You get thousands of North Korean boys out here. You think that's just going to be an easy integration? By God, what if one of these guys sees a fleshlight? They're going to go insane. They're going to be like, "Is that dinner?" They're going to be like, "If you want it." But that's not the point. That's a diversion. We don't need to go down that diversion. Let's go to some Tony moments from the Trump rally. And actually, let's start. Let's start here. I think this is a good place to start. So I flipped this on. Cards on the table. I was going in for a hate watch across the board. All right. Flipped it on. This is what he opens with.
There's serious stuff happening, people. I live in the great state of Texas now. 18 years in Ohio, 20 years in California, and I got to see California turn to absolute horrendous thing. And traveling the world, I got to see San Francisco turn into one of the most demented cities, one of the greatest downfalls I've ever seen. And that is where the other candidate worked for 2 decades.
Okay, so this is a political speech. He is going to stick to politics, right? Now, I come from the Bay Area. I put on for the Bay. I didn't like that. Because I hear that a lot. So I thought I would do a quick just check in on this, okay? And no one's going to like you. This is an unwinnable conversation, because if you try to tell someone, hey, I actually live in San Francisco for a long time, and I actually found it to be like pretty solid, and obviously has its problems and things that I'd love to get fixed. Hey, I don't love when our first round picks getting shot through the chest walking through Union Square wearing a Rolex. I don't like that. But I thought I would take a look at has San Francisco crime gotten worse? No, crime in San Francisco has been decreasing and is currently at its lowest point in a decade. And that was key to me, because 2020 was not great. I lived in San Francisco in 2020. That was not a nice time. I did not enjoy the pandemic there. I did not think it was handled well. I ended up leaving because a meth head was repeatedly breaking into my now wife and I's apartment. So I have my own thoughts. And the police, I want to say, did a great job. And they said, we got him. They staked him out. They locked him up. And they said, he's going to be back soon because it's COVID. So we're just going to have to let him out. So I didn't love that. I just want to say I also can use anecdotal evidence. I don't think San Francisco is the perfect place in the world. I do hate this narrative that it's just a complete shithole that can be used as a punching bag when I go both places. I think San Francisco is way nicer than a lot of fucking places in Texas, not going to lie. All right, 2024, in the first quarter of 2024, violent crime was down 14%, property crime was down 32% compared to 23. In 23, because you don't just want to compare to the last year because things were bad. 23, overall crime was down 7% from 2022 and 13% from 2019, which is pre-COVID. Okay, property crime was at its lowest point in a decade, and violent crime was below pre-pandemic levels. So, okay, homicides down 39% year to date. The point is, across the board, I'm seeing the stats are down. I'll be honest, this isn't a full-on politics show. I'm dressed as a pumpkin. If someone wants to tell me that they changed how they're tracking things or whatever, I can be open to that. But there's just this blanket narrative that a simple lookup is saying is not necessarily true. So I don't know. I don't know what to do with that, but that's okay. He wants to make political points. Let's allow straight politics to happen. Let's continue.
Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies, too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country.
Now that I found to be a particularly interesting moment because right here is where, so obviously he's transitioning into jokes. And I do want to say this, okay? I'm a comedian. I'm not in Tony's orbit per se. I've met him. I obviously I don't agree with what he's doing here. I do know how tough a corporate gig is. And that doesn't look like a particularly fun room to be doing. I will give him that. And the main thing here, and we'll play a couple more things. You've probably heard them. They're all over the fucking media. The Puerto Rico thing, the whatever. The main thing here, I think, is I don't think these were particularly eloquent roast jokes, and I think it's very important for Tony to realize the context of doing them at a Trump rally is very different than doing them at the Comedy Mothership, at the Comedy Store, at whatever, where you can go, these are just jokes. He's trying to use the these are just jokes response, but that's very difficult to use when you're doing it at a rally for a presidential candidate in the weeks leading up to that. It's going to get used politically, and it should, and that's fine. That's what you signed up for. But on the other hand, the Trump people booked Tony Hinchcliffe, and this is literally what he does. He doesn't have a different speed. Now, I think it's potentially fair to say that the people who run the Trump rally might not have done their homework. And I would submit to the court as evidence that they called him Kill Tony on the billing. So they didn't know his actual name. So that might give you an idea of the level of preparation that is going into a really important event for Trump in the final days of his campaign. These might be the people running things for him and how dialed in to the details they are. Who is this going to help? It will actually help Tony. I know a lot of people are mad at him. One of Trump's, Peter Navarro, who worked for Trump at one point, I believe he was a White House aide or something, said he is the stupidest a-hole to come down the comedy pipeline. A lot of people online agree with that. Here's the thing, though, and here's how it's going to work. Tony will be fine. Tony will his show. He's got a show at the Mothership sold out immediately after all of this. In the world that he travels in, this is going to largely be seen as a positive. I know that's. If you already agree with him, then you're already there. But if you're outside of it, you're like, how is that possible? The entire media is talking about what an idiot is. The Trump campaign is throwing him under the bus. All of Puerto Rico hates him. I guess we should play the Puerto Rico clip, and I will explain why he will still win.
Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay. All right. Okay. We're getting there.
Yeah. And that's where he was. He was doing his jokes the way that he usually does, realizing the crowd isn't totally liking them. Definitely didn't look at the demographic data for Pennsylvania, which has a large Puerto Rican votership base, and which is why so many Republicans and Trump officials are throwing him directly under the bus. He also got into it with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, which you would think, oh, she's going to be a triggered lib. Tony's just going to body her because they played a clip. She was saying this is what he thinks about working class people, blah, blah, blah. Tony responds. Here's his tweet. These people have no sense of humor. Wild that a vice presidential candidate would take time out of his busy schedule to analyze a joke taken out of context to make it seem racist. I love Puerto Rico and vacation there. That's a case closed. If you're a white person who vacations in a place, that means you have the spirit of the native people who live there directly in your heart at all times. I would know, all right? That is what, when you're on your 9th pina colada, you're like, what's the actual breakdown out here? How did we get here? Are we making sure that we support these people enough? That's what happens on pina colada. Around pina colada number 9 is when it always hits. That's when you start. That's when you start being like, let's connect with the thoughts of the indigenous. I vacationed there. I made fun of everyone who watched the whole set. I'm a comedian, Tim. Might be time to change your tampon. So that. That's Tony's take. I didn't think it was particularly great. But then AOC actually responds. She says, you're opening for Trump by calling Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage. 4,000 plus Puerto Ricans died under him. This isn't the Comedy Store. You're using your set to boost neo-Nazis like MTG and stripping women's rights to the Stone Age. Your sense of humor doesn't change that. And before people try to act like this is some PC overly sensitive nonsense, I've been to Kill Tony shows. I'm from the Bronx. I don't give a shit about crude humor, but don't pretend that your support for Trump is a joke. Own it. You doing a set to support him, that's a choice. I thought that was actually a great job by her to be like, I've literally been to your show. She kind of alludes to it. She knows who he is, but it's like, that is the thing. The context of it is, look, I love the defend comedy approach at a lot of times, but when you're doing it at a political rally, it takes a different context. The comedy club is a sacred space. There are still lines there. We all know that. There are still lines there, but the lines change when you do something specifically to support a political candidate. That's just how it works. Now, a lot of people are like taking this opportunity to supposedly dance on Tony's grave, but that is not how any of this works. Politics and comedy are in a very similar space. All right. A long time ago, the way that our democracy is set up and the way that we reach people is obviously through entertainment. The entertainment in politics and entertainment have been blending for a long time. It started with television. It accelerated drastically with Roger Ailes and Fox News. Roger, of course, was a TV producer before he knew anything about politics. He knows how to give the people what they want. He was able to recast the entire conservative establishment, which was generally understood to be the elite ruling class, as the underdogs. He was able to take the mainstream media and the liberal coastal elites and turn them into the giant group that deserves everyone's grievances, and on some particular situations, rightfully so. But he was able to take the group that fights for the elite's interests and market them as the rebels and fire everybody up. This is a direct consequence for how we ended up with Donald Trump, and the blending of politics and entertainment, which has been a long-term project, either because it's just the natural flow of how things were going to go, or because individuals were directly related into it. Either effing way, it works. And now we're at a point where comedians have large platforms, which means we are now part of the ball game. And the way that politics works, and comedy, honestly, is there is a little thing that happens called crowd capture, where you basically build a crowd, you go for something, and then you realize where people love you, where people hate you, you go in the direction of people that love you, and this is how you end up in situations where you look completely batshit crazy to some people, and other people absolutely love you. Tony is going to benefit from all of this, because while the liberal elite establishment tries to cancel him, even if that's just people legitimately saying they didn't fuck with what he had to say at a Trump rally, his fan base is already Trump coded. His fan base, the mothership audience, the Rogan audience, everyone is moving ever so steadily that direction. I don't think completely, but I think their shift is certainly away from the Democratic establishment. And they love this shit. They are fired up by it. Even the ones that are like strategic error, most people are just basically have turned into bots that can just be like, oh my God, take a joke, you fucking pussy. Figure it out. Take a fucking joke. Now, why have comedians become an important fifth branch of government? Here's one of the reasons. Obviously, podcasts are big. They're huge. But they're big amongst a certain subset of people. Men 18 to 45, which ends up being a key demographic in the voting base. This isn't to say that there aren't large female podcasts. Obviously, all sorts of people listen to all sorts of podcasts. But just generally, the way that it all skews, that is true. So we've ended up in a situation where the keys to a large group of people that have been told for a really long time that the mainstream media, that political news, that all this is like basically bullshit. The main people to give it to you are the individuals who speak directly to you, which oftentimes end up being comedians. There's obviously a problem with this. Now all of a sudden you have people that don't have journalistic training, aren't upheld to journalistic standards, don't really even have an incentive to do journalistic work. If I get someone on here, I'm not like, oh, I should really blow up their spot so I never get another political candidate again. No, I have no power. I don't have the power of an entire institution behind me that a political candidate needs. I'm just me. I got to look out for me, dog. So we have this situation where comedians are becoming more and more powerful, okay? And anything you say when people do something bad, if you're on the right, just fires people up more and more. So you can expect more of that. And whether or not it is his actual name, I don't think this is going to kill Tony. Today is Halloween. So what are the things that make Halloween special? I don't really know. I have not enjoyed Halloween really. I think Halloween is great for three groups of people. Children, single girls, and married girls who are really into Instagram. I think that's, or I should not even married, but coupled girls that are very Instagram coded. I think those are the three groups. That children is obvious. I mean, childhood Halloween was the shit. I remember it vividly. I remember eating that fucking. I love candy corn, by the way. Everyone's like, candy corn's gross. It's made out of wax. A lot of great things are made out of wax. Fucking candles. Celebrities. Every celebrity is made out of wax. You don't believe me? Go to Madame Tussauds. They have them all. Wax is fine. I have no problem eating wax. I enjoy candy corn. I remember it vividly. It's linked to my childhood. I remember my favorite shit. We had a good walkable neighborhood, a good walkable trick or treat neighborhood. And I don't know. Look, I didn't grow up like in the 80s where kids just belonged to the street. There was a time, or at least they make it seem like it, there was a time when like your parents were just like stuck at the smoke factory or whatever. And so the kids would just like go outside and run and just like swing sticks at each other and make forts and live in their imagination. Children used to have an imagination. We didn't outsource that to Dora. It was a nice time. TV should go back to black and white. We're giving kids too much. I'm dressed as a pumpkin. That's not the point. Even in my era, I feel like there was less of a vibe of, hey, watch out, someone's going to, I'm not even going to say that word, do bad things to you, all right? Because it was like we went out at night and we would go with the parents, but the parents would have fun. You'd load up a wagon, okay? They'd put margarita in a thermos. You'd be walking around nighttime. That always fired me up. I got to see everything at nighttime. I got to see my school at nighttime. Got to see the neighborhood at nighttime around dusk. You'd see that girl from class all cute, dressed up like a princess. It's 6 p.m. I never get to see the ladies this late. I'm 8 or however old. I was always, dude, I have always, since I remember in preschool, I was like, damn, bitches are hot. I've always been like, yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Damn, that bitch hot. I'm like 2. I literally have shit in my pants. I'm like, clean me up. Let me get out there. Boy. They said, my mom said that the teachers were always like, he's really smart. He gets all of his assignments done, but he's shy. Yeah, I'm shy. I'm over here thinking about that chick. Sup, girl? What you doing, Vanessa? So always. And so I was a crush guy through and through. Preschool, kindergarten, first grade. I had a target, dude, all the time. So you get out Halloween time, go, yeah. Yeah, I'm dressed like a Power Ranger. Where the sluts at? Okay? 8 years old, out at night. Give me some of that margarita. All right? Jason wants to cook. I think that's the name of the red Power Ranger. Hold up. Let's check. I need to make sure I'm getting my Power Ranger facts accurate. Red Power Ranger name. Fucking Jason Lee Scott. JLS. He was the first leader of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers and was portrayed by Austin St. John. You have to have 3 names you want to be a part of this. 3 names. Here are some other facts about Jason Lee Scott. He was a 17-year-old black belt with a mischievous streak. Don't I know it? Am I not? Come on. He was the first leader of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. That's me. I'm a captain. Captain of my high school baseball team. Not a big deal. He later became the Golden Zeo Ranger. What was that? He used his power sword as his main weapon. Yeah. Yeah, I use my power sword as my main weapon. Sub. It's Halloweeny. You know I got that thing on me. He also had a blaster tool. Yeah, he does. What? You mean my power sword can turn into a blaster tool? Stop. You play too much. Whoopsh! This ain't a game. Come on. He controlled the Tyrannosaurus Dinozord and the Red Dragon Thunderzord. That's all in a day's work, my girl. Yeah. You know what I mean? He made his final live-action appearance in the special episode Forever Red of Power Rangers Wild Force. Shout out to Jason Lee Scott. Play up sound. God, I always give myself... I need to hire someone so I can just shout editing instructions at them. Make an explosion. Okay, well, I don't remember what I was talking about. I guess this is just Halloween memories, and I didn't mean to make it all sexual. But it was nighttime, and you could feel a mischievousness in the air. Everyone's wearing their Halloween best. Looking cute. Yeah, looking cute, but we ready to get into some trouble. You know what I mean? We would walk around town trick-or-treating. Fun as fuck. Parents having a nice time. They were pumping margaritas, okay? Some of them probably having too much fun. Hey, calm down, Mr. Not Gonna Say Your Last Name. We know what you did. So here's the deal. It's fun. It's fun to go out. It's a nice excuse to party. And when you're a kid, it's amazing. You go out, you get that candy. You know, I'd bring it home, and then my dad would be like, I'd tax you with Snickers. And I'd be like, I fucking bet you won't, fuckface. You what? You're going to what? You're going to have, Snickers. Oh. Well, I'm not me when I'm hungry. All right? And I'm defending that. I'm defending Snicker time. I enjoyed that. All right? So, anyway, I enjoyed that quite a bit, and it was a magical time. And I think what happens a lot is, like, when you're a kid, assuming you had a good childhood, and I hope you did. If you didn't, talk to someone. When you're a kid, the world is not as it seems. You see it through a very specific lens. And I do believe that every age has its own wisdom. I think there are things we know as children that we forget as adults that are very sad. Like, we should be more creative. I should be finger painting right now instead of talking to a camera. I don't know. There are things as a kid that you understand. You understand how beautiful and shocking a flower or a blade of grass is. And you don't remember that until you do psychedelics one time and you're like, what the fuck? This thing's alive? But you also don't really know a lot of things. You are not old enough to be jaded. You're not old enough to be stressed, aside from things like it's dark, which is very stressful. Don't get me wrong. Darkness, horrifying as a child. But you just have a very specific, shrunken view. But what that leads to is really raw, really beautiful, really entrenched, nostalgic experiences that I think you end up spending a lot of the rest of your life trying to recreate. Right up until you become a parent, and then it is your responsibility to actually create that new experience for a child, ideally with any process of improvements that you can think of, so we can all ideally become better people as time goes along. It doesn't always feel like that's what's happening, but I think that's what we should strive for, right? So I think that's what it is. That's why it's beautiful as a kid, because you have these memories, these feelings of Halloween. I remember trying to even chase it. Like when we were in high school, it'd be like, you're like a freshman in high school and you're like, oh, it's Halloween. We should go do a thing, right? And then you just go out and try and do hood rat shit with your friends, and it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have the same magic. I remember almost getting in a fight or something, probably drunk. I don't know. Had a lot of fun. Then Halloween enters this phase where it's not really fun for anybody except single hot chicks who are just sending it on their outfits, and then guys trying to do the absolute bare minimum to be near them and try and take one home. And that's fun for everybody. And then you enter adult life. And now Halloween, some people like it. I guess I forgot a subset of people, because there is a subset of people that like Halloween, and those people are just called generally spooky. And I don't know I don't really tend to associate with the generally spooky. They creep me out. I go, what's going on here? Is something wrong? Are you made of cobwebs? Are you actually a witch? I don't trust witches. I think we should drown them, see if they float. I don't know. I don't associate with the spooky. So that's a little outside of my realm. I'm a child of light. I am Jason Lee Scott. I am the Red Power Ranger. So but then yes, here's my final one. And sorry, I'm rambling. I didn't prepare for that. I'm just going to peel back the curtain right now. I prepared for about an hour and 15 podcast on the whole Tony at MSG, comedians, final election prep. And I just kind of went, I don't know if I want to do that for an hour. Is that what you want? I mean, if you want that, you have no recourse, because the episode's going to end. But I just felt like I have enjoyed talking about politics on this show to a certain extent, but I don't want this to become that, because it makes me feel weird. I don't feel like I want to live in that all the time. I'm interested in it. I have some takes here and there, but I don't want to become that, okay? So, with all due respect, back to Halloween, there's the final version, and this is married or cuffed up chicks who love Instagram. This is their fucking Super Bowl. Because think about the things that these people like. Boom, autumn. Dude, we got the pumpkins going. We got everything. You're wearing your sweaters. You're you can post your coffee, fucking leaves and shit. Just all this Vermont coded vibe, And now it's Halloween, and now we can do the couple's costume. I feel bad for my wife. She doesn't really get to do the couple's costume because I'm a maverick, dude. I'm Jason from the Power Rangers. I can't be a bacon and an egg. I need my costume to stand alone. I'm a pumpkin. Okay? And that's just, everyone has their own struggles in life. That is hers. Sorry. I'm a pumpkin. But if you have a relatively subservient male in your life, and you are an Instagram dominant lady, often white, but it can be anybody. This is your Super Bowl. Halloween comes around and you're going, fuck these kids. Like, you might even have an infant, okay? Throw away the 3-month-old baby wooden plank that you got and the photo that you're taking of her. Bitch, it's my time to shine, okay? Couples costume, something cute, something topical. These are the things that you want. And I hope you get that. Today is Halloween. I know you've been working on. If any of you are part of the 12, if any of you listen to this show, I hope and I pray that you get the couple's costume that you want today. If you're running out of time, if this is the first thing that you're listening to and you're like, holy shit, what am I going to do? Let me suggest a simple costume. Tony Hinchcliffe in a pile of garbage. It's an option, okay? And the success that it will bring him. I do need to try. Last thing on that, I will move on from this, but I do think there's a version of white privilege that not enough people are talking about. I know. Not what you were expecting from this program is me to dive into the whole white privilege thing. I know. But sometimes it takes a red Power Ranger to figure it out. And what I would say the real white privilege is that at any point, at any time, if I need to, trust me, I think about it. I look at it. All right. My career, I'm like in a little fucking skydiver's plane, you know? And I'm like, hey, let's see if we can get up there. Let's see if we can get up. Let's see if we can get to where we want to go. And then if at any point it doesn't, I'll just jump out with the parachute. And the parachute is just like, yeah, I'll say it. I'm sick of these lazy. If you say one bad thing and get canceled, enough people will just be like, actually, we love you now. Because people are so sick of the people who do the canceling. That's the energy. That's the combustion engine of our time. And that's why people complain and say cancel culture isn't real, because people get more successful. What they don't realize is it just shifts you to a different lane. And now you just do this now. And all that is fuel for the, yeah, fuck that. And that's why I said, and I got some shit for it because I posted on Reddit, which I shouldn't have, but I said it's healthy to vote based on hate. And people got mad at that, and I understand it, and they looked at it as centrism and whatever. I guess it's not really that it's healthy. It's more that that's what's fucking happening anyway, baby. And if it's what's for dinner, then have some. And you know what's for dinner tonight on Halloween evening? Candy corn. And Daddy's having some. All right, one more thing before we close off. But first, come see me live, folks. JoeyAvery.com/live. I will be in Long Island this weekend. I will be in Houston next weekend. I will be in Greenwood, Colorado, which is basically Denver the weekend after that. Then it'll be Thanksgiving time. And then I think my next big one is San Jose, the homecoming show, December 18th. But we've also just announced Atlanta. We've announced Nashville. We've announced Irvine. We've got some fun stuff in the new year, so please come on out. JoeyAvery.com/live. Also, at JoeyAvery.com, there's a Tell Me Where to Perform button. What that does is it tells me where you want me to go, and it also allows me to email you when I'm going to be there. It also adds you to my mailing list so you can be the first to know about fun things like a merch drop that may well be coming soon, folks. We may have something for you on the next episode. Wouldn't that be exciting? Who knows? Finally here, I think we should discuss the Donald Trump on Joe Rogan podcast. This is one of the most anticipated podcasts in podcast history. Whether you love that fact or not, it is simply true. 35 million views in the first couple days. Not the top video when you look for it on YouTube, which is not great. I think it's fair to say that should be the top. Never entered the trending page, which it definitely should have. I understand that there's a lot of misinformation in there. I understand all of that, but at some point you just have to realize that people aren't stupid, and that by doing these things you cause a Streisand effect that people need to stop doing. I don't like when I go on X, it's very clearly all boosted Trump content. This is fucking obvious and true. And then when you go on YouTube, they're delisting one of the biggest episodes of the year. If not, I don't know what would be bigger. So I would love it if it stopped on both sides, but that's maybe just not the era of journalism that we're in. Maybe this is our new, muckraking papers age of just controlling the flow of information. Who knows? Doesn't feel good. People notice. That's all that I would say. Trump going on Rogan is a long build-up moment. Joe has said for a long time he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to help him in any way. He doesn't want to be... As much as he does like to talk about politics and certainly has waded in on certain political arguments, especially going through COVID, he's never been an out-and-out, I support this person. He's always railed against the two-party system, blah, 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 all that. But I think the thought and the hope was when he goes on there, we're going to get some answers. We're going to get some, what does it really feel like to be an outsider? All the stuff that the conspiracy theorists think about that they hype Trump up about, if we get an outsider in, then we'll finally get the answers to JFK. We'll finally get the answers to aliens. We'll finally get, we'll realize the capture of the agencies and how the CIA actually runs everything. And we'll get to see behind the curtain. And it's never quite as exciting as you want it to be, is it? Rogan asked Trump what it felt like getting in there, trying to get at that question. Trump rambled for 25 minutes or something like that about random shit, about looking at the size of Lincoln's bed, and Joe never got the answer. Now, Trump probably smartly is just I'm not going to try and make crazy news here. I just want to talk about what I want to talk about. He knows how to do that. But also, I don't think there's that much there. The whole thing, I started listening to it. Listen, it dropped on a weekend night, I think. Was it Friday night when it dropped? Whatever it was. I clearly had plans because I got to be honest, I was hammered when this came out, and I was like, oh shit, I have to listen to it. I have no choice but to inject this directly into my veins. And I would confidently tell you that is not the right way to do that at all. That was not... I was talking to my phone. I was literally where's Joe? I was going, are you in there? Hello? Joe, where are you? Because I was drunk and Trump just started talking about random shit. And I was like, that wasn't the question. Joe, where are you? What's happening? It was insane. I was literally just, I didn't know what was happening. I had to check my phone. I'm like, did I put on a speech? What is occurring? So we didn't really get anything interesting about it. I would say, obviously, people who love Trump will love it because they'll glaze whatever. But if you were looking at that, even trying to be objective, being are we going to get a really interesting moment? Same shit. He claimed, I guess, on the JFK stuff, Rogan asked him about why he wouldn't declassify the files, and Trump said, "Oh well, I would like to, and I will do it next time." Obviously, but I can't because there are people alive that are still involved. Well, that's kind of giving away that there was government involvement right there. So let's hope that actually happens. But that was about it. Trump tried to tell Joe that he had information on the election being rigged, which has been his main thing that he's been talking about forever, and then provided absolutely nothing and said oh, I'll bring you documents next time. And so whatever. The whole thing ended up being kind of boring. So that's that. Most anticipated thing ever, and people will see what they want to see in it. I don't know if it really moves the needle that much. What is fascinating to me is the reports that the reason you get the craziest run in podcasting history of all time is all because Barron, who's at NYU, is telling his dad, go do this shit. Which is hilarious. Barron back there behind the strings going, do this, do that, go on Theo, go on Trump, go on Rogan, go wherever. And that's what led to all this. Hilarious, fascinating. Good for him, I guess. Kamala Harris trying to reach out to you. She dropped a Fortnite skin. Play that.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let them know we on the way. Counting zeros every day.
So there it is. Politics is a reflection of where the eyeballs are. This is where the eyeballs are, apparently. And there we are. Great, I guess. I don't know. I've tried to think about this. I've tried to come away with some bigger moment as someone who was relatively early to the listening to podcast trends, the art form. Ugh. the media medium has always been of interest to me, and something that I think I thought would mean more to me when we have this moment of mass adoption and getting a president actually having the long-form conversation and give credit. The 3 hours I think was nice. I think that we should get more of that. I do think that's a good thing. But the assumption that was going to change whether the country's divided, that would get us a more substantive conversation, I think it's just a little bit more entertainment. And maybe a little bit of an insight, and maybe there's a marginal gain there, but I don't know that it's changed things all that much. Perhaps one day a candidate will be truly charismatic enough to do so. I don't know. Maybe the end game of all of this is that as he gets canceled, as people jeer him, as people get mad at Tony Hinchcliffe for his jokes about Puerto Ricans and black people and watermelon, all said within the confines of an actual political event for Donald Trump himself. The people will get mad at him. They will cast him out. They will say he is done. He is finished. Meanwhile, his show will grow online. A larger and larger group of people would say, take the joke, you fucking pussy. And they will say that's who he's always been. And that part of it is true. And he will move towards the people who agree with him. He doesn't like to be crossed. He sure doesn't. He can lash out if he's crossed. But he'll go with the people who like him, and a growing number of people will. Even some people are going out of the tent. Maybe he's not as mainstream, but more and more people will like him. And the more and more those people are coded with one particular party, the more and more he will move that direction. And maybe one day he himself will be on a ticket. This will have been his golden escalator moment. And what starts with a joke about Puerto Ricans, where he does love to visit, will turn into some actual comments. And the more the jokes turn into actual comments, people will go, yeah. No one's saying this anymore. Those pussies won't allow you to say it. This guy's fun. I'm with fun. Fuck all the other shit. And maybe one day we will have a president. A president, not the first president in a long line of people who do kill, but a president whose first name is kill, apparently. Only the newest in a long line of closeted gay Republicans. We'll see where it all goes, folks. Happy Halloween. Put on something fun. And then, of course, it is election time. What are you doing for the election? I'd like to know in the comments. I want to know if anyone has fun election plans, because I don't have any, but I want to do something. I was talking with a friend of mine. We were thinking, you know what might be fun is we should take acid, put on fur coats, and walk around New York City as it all unfolds, and just take in America from an odd perspective and see what it tells us about the land. And that is what I call an idea that is a lot better in theory than practice. Because what would probably happen is I would go to a bar and go, this thing's hot. I don't really like it. These people are weirding me out. I want to go home. And then I would lie in bed afraid, thinking about what it all means. And maybe that's the point anyway. Because I never really know. And that's what I try to bring to this exact here program. A lot of thoughts with very little answers. Well, thank you guys very much for listening to this episode of The Joey Show. Leave a like, subscribe, review, whatever the fuck you do. We'll see you next week, and hopefully we will know who is president of the United States by then. We'll see. Good night.
Thank God I have a podcast.